Hey guys, today I want to talk to you a little bit about net neutrality and why it's important, why you need to be paying attention to it if you aren't already, why you need to be freaking out about it if it's not already something that's on your mind. Even if you don't live in America, I don't. I live in Ukraine. But this is still an extremely important issue that's going to affect you, and it's going to affect everybody that uses the internet and wants to create a service on the internet after December 14th when the vote goes through. Net neutrality is the principle that all traffic on the internet should be treated equally, and your ISP can't prefer some sites or some services over others, which is good because Verizon, for example, owns Yahoo. And it would be in their interest to slow down Google so that you would be incentivized to use their service, Yahoo. One thing that you need to remember as we talk about net neutrality today is that unlimited data with equal options for you is bad for business. That's kind of like the end of the story when it comes to your ISP. They know that, and with everything that we're going to talk about here today, it will all go back to that main principle that the unlimited data choices with equal choices, equal options for you is going to be bad business for the ISP. What they want to do ultimately is charge you for the bandwidth and then charge the content provider for the bandwidth as well. They want to double dip. Every decision that the cable company makes is based on them scheming ways to squeeze more money out of you and recently tricking you into thinking that it's necessary and good. That is the main reason why ISPs oppose net neutrality, and they will tell you every lie under the sun to make you believe that, net neutrality is the government trying to take control of the internet. Net neutrality is going to stop people investing in ISP. Please don't believe them when they say these things. First of all, net neutrality doesn't control the internet. It controls internet service providers. And when they talk about investment, when you hear an ISP executive say something like, oh, net neutrality, without it, people will invest so much more in our companies. Well, they're right. They're right in the sense that they're going to force their customers to invest a lot more in their company by charging them ridiculous amounts of money for things that they don't need. In one interview I watched with at&t, the interviewer said something like, oh, well, if the internet service provider offers a video streaming service, then wouldn't it be in their business interest to make their service very robust and make Netflix very crappy? So that way they would have less competition and the customer would be incentivized to use their proprietary service. And at&t said, quote, one of the things about that hypothetical is that it is a hypothetical. We would never do that. Well, he didn't say that, but he did say, quote, we don't see evidence of that happening, end quote. Okay, so basically what he's saying is, and by the way, he's the FCC chairman, even though he still talks like he works for Verizon, like he used to. He's actually the FCC chairman. This is the nightmare, bizarro world that we're living in now. But he's basically said, oh, yeah, just trust the ISP. They would never favor some services over others, even if it was in their business interest to do so. They would never do that. And we all know from our interactions with Comcast that they always do what they say. So anyway, I kind of wanted to go through point by point and talk about all the times that, in fact, the ISPs did favor some services over others, did block some services because it was in their business interest to do so, and all the times that net neutrality saved the public from exploitation, that the FCC stepped in and said, this isn't fair, this isn't right, we are going to not let you manipulate the public. Which, with the vote that's happening on December 14th, the FCC is basically giving up all their power to regulate these industries. I know. So, in 2005, Comcast blocked all peer-to-peer services without telling customers. They just decided, we don't really like BitTorrent, so cut it. But don't tell the customers. It's fine. In 2005, Madison River Communications was blocking Vonage because it lets you make calls on the internet, and they sell service for making calls, so they didn't much care for Vonage. Same thing happened in 2007 to 2009 with at&t. They blocked Skype and all VoIP services. One of the at&t executives was quoted as saying, Skype is just over the top. It's just over the top ridiculous. Like, to them, it probably seemed that way. They're like, wow, this internet thing is really competing with us pretty hard. Just cut it. In 2011, Metro PCS tried to block all streaming except YouTube. Now, this was an early example of something that we're seeing a lot of today that I'll talk about more later, called a zero rating service. What that means is they made it so YouTube didn't count towards your data cap, but everything else would, or you would have to pay a lot more for other services, but YouTube, etc., which is obviously extremely anti-competitive. They sued the FCC over this. They lost. But a lot of that is happening. Zero rating services are happening a lot nowadays. Like I said, I'll talk about that in a minute. From 2011 to 2013, at&t, Sprint, and Verizon blocked Google Wallet because it was competing with their crappy wallet system for doing phone payments. So there's what I thought that Ajit Pai, I thought you worked for Verizon. Don't you remember? Don't you remember when they blocked Google Wallet because it competed with their service? I thought that never happened. From 2011, at&t subjected its unlimited data plan customers to secret caps. So basically, they told the customers, "Oh, it's unlimited. It's unlimited internet." But without telling them, they whenever customers hit a certain invisible cap, a secret cap, they would just throttle their internet down so hard, like 95% drop in speed, mainly because they didn't much care for the consumers having the unlimited, and they wanted the consumers to move over to the new plan, which was the data cap, more expensive, more inconvenient plan. In 2012, Verizon demanded that Google should block all the Android tethering apps because at the time they were trying to squeeze an extra $20 out of their customers for tethering, which was totally arbitrary, totally unnecessary. And when customers found a way around it through the Android tethering apps, they got pretty upset about that. So even though the customer's already being charged for bandwidth, they wanted to go ahead and charge them an extra $20 for tethering, because what the hell? Why not? There's not a lot of competition, so why the hell not? Oh, by the way, Verizon had actually promised that they wouldn't do that exact thing when they bought some airwaves at public auction. As part of that deal, they said, oh, well, we promise not to block any apps or services. But they did. So here's another example of the ISP saying that they're not going to do something, promising, even saying, oh, we're not going to do this thing, or this very bad thing. But then they do it over and over and over again. So don't listen to them when they tell you that they're not going to do a thing that sucks for you, the consumer, because they absolutely will. They have every single opportunity in the past decade. In 2012, at&t tried to block access to FaceTime unless customers paid more money. In 2013, Verizon said, quote, that but for these rules, meaning the net neutrality rules, we would be exploring those types of arrangements, meaning they would be exploiting their customers. They said the only thing stopping them from paid prioritization of traffic was the net neutrality. If not for these rules, we would be exploiting our customers. Their attorney said that so many times. In 2016, now this is fairly recent. Before I get into this, I want to talk about what happened in 2015. In 2015, the internet was reclassified as a utility under Title II in very much the same way that water and electricity are classified as utilities, meaning that you pay a certain amount and you can get the water, you can get the electricity, and they can't discriminate it. You have access to that utility. Well, without net neutrality, they will be able to, for example, if internet was water, they would be able to charge you differently if you decide to drink water or if you decide to water your plants with it. And imagine that your water company is PepsiCo and they want you to use Aquafina. It's ridiculous. So anyway, in 2016, at&t rolled out a system for DirecTV Now that made it so you could stream video without it counting to your data cap. Now, this is something that they were able to do basically by a loophole in the net neutrality rules that went through in 2015. This was something that wasn't covered, was this data cap stuff. And by the way, this is the whole reason that the data caps exist. They are arbitrary. They're not really needed. Nowadays, the only reason that they are there is to make you, the consumer, feel like, oh, my ISP is letting me watch all the video I want and it's not counting towards my data cap. They're so generous. It's such a good plan. That's why the data cap's there. The data cap's unnecessary. And again, think about it just logically for a second. If if the data cap is there because there's not enough bandwidth to go around, then why is it that those certain services that happen to profit your ISP, oh, they can have all the bandwidth they want. They can have, you just stream video all day at the fastest speed all night. You know, think about that for a second. Or, I mean, how stupid do they think we are? So, AT&T, with their DirecTV Now, basically favoring a company it owns over competitors. So they're already doing that. The thing that Ajit Pai said, oh, they would never do, they're already doing it. They're going to continue to do it, and it's only going to get worse because right now AT&T wants to buy Time Warner, which owns Game of Thrones and Batman and all kinds of other fun franchises that people enjoy. And I mean, you can just sit around and think like a ISP executive for a bit. Think to yourself, what are some evil things that I can do with these new properties that I now have? Not only the content, but I have the means to distribute that content. How can I screw the customer and how can I screw the content provider at the same time? Like, how can I charge the customer for faster, for the Netflix bundle or for this video streaming bundle, and I can turn around and charge Netflix extra for getting to the customer? You see how they're double dipping there? They're just the worst. So think about what they're going to do with Game of Thrones, what they're going to do with us. I mean, I could conceivably imagine a world in which AT&T is like, oh, you want to watch the new season of Game of Thrones? Well, you better sign up for our new plan. New season of Game of Thrones available only to those who sign up for AT&T Now. Okay, that's the future. If the net neutrality goes away, that I'm serious. It does, and it gets worse than that, because just think for a second. AT&T and Time Warner together, a massive behemoth in control of news, in control of content, in control of the way that content is distributed. Many cases in cities that don't have any alternative to that media. Many cases in cities, municipalities that have signed a contract with AT&T for the next 20 years. Okay, so you don't even have competition, and who you're going to hear your news and information from. Don't you think that's a little bit too much power to be in the hands of one company when the FCC has abdicated its power to control or regulate that industry? Don't you think that something might go wrong in that situation? This is the power not just to control what you see, but this is the power to change public perception. This is the power to block websites and viewpoints that are different than what the company wants or is paid to like or is requested to like by anyone, including government officials. The government could just call your ISP and say, you know what, I don't much care for that website that's criticizing me. How about you block it? And we'll just pay you a little bit to do that. That's not legal now, but it will be legal without net neutrality. This is like I said, this is the power to influence elections. This is bigger than the internet. You need to be worried about it. I don't even live in US right now. I live in Ukraine, and I'm super worried about it for you guys, for my family in America, and I'm worried about it for the services that I enjoy. Right now, you're watching this video on YouTube. It's hosted by Google. That's based in America. I stream on Twitch. That's a good bit of my income. That's based in America. I like Twitter. I like Imgur. There's a lot of things that I enjoy that you probably enjoy that are based in America. So even if you don't live in America, it's a big deal because whatever ISP is providing bandwidth to those services, if they throttle it, you're getting throttled too. It doesn't matter where you are. Okay? Not to mention the fact that with think about these companies, Twitter, Facebook, they started out as small companies in a dorm room. Reddit, and they started small and they grew because the internet is open and free and gave them the platform to do that. Well, without net neutrality, a small creator, maybe like Discord, for example, may not be able to pay the ISP the extra money to get into the fast lane of traffic or to get into the zero rate cap for traffic, you know? So anyway, I'm going to provide some links for ways that you can stop this, try to stop this, do something so that when the end of the world comes, you can say, you know, at least I tried. I know that making phone calls is really scary. So I'm going to be linking to ResistBot in the description box below. That will help you send a message to your representative so you don't have to call. I understand how that can be a little bit scary, so you don't have to call, but you can still do something. You can also, I'll also be linking to battleforthenet.com for those of you who want to do more, who are pissed off, who should be pissed off. And there's protests organized everywhere that are linked to on Battle for the Net. It will also show you a way to write your congressman, call your congressman. I recommend that you do that every day. Do it every day. Post something every day. Say something every day. Tell someone every day. I explained this to my mom yesterday. I explained what net neutrality is to my mom, and a lot of people, it's not hard to understand because pretty much everybody that you know has had a pretty negative interaction with Comcast. Well, now's the time to use that against them. Let the fact that everyone hates Comcast work for us for once. Okay? So anyway, I'm going to also include sources to everything that I've talked about here today. So you can go back and fact check. And I really encourage you to do that because, look, I was mad about net neutrality before I started researching this video, but now I am pissed. It gets worse and worse the more you find out how many times the ISP has screwed the customer and how many times they promised that they wouldn't. Oh, we promise and swear we won't screw the customer. But then they did. They turned around and they did. So don't let them do it this time. I'm serious. This is a big deal. And I really, really hope that this video inspires you to take action. Share this video. Do what you can. Anything will help.